Hey everybody, Michael from Pigeon Hill Brewing Company here. Let me take off the banner at the bottom that says the show is going to start soon because it has started. Um, at this point we're 4 weeks in, and I'm thinking there's little chance I'm ever going to figure out what I'm doing. We're still just winging this, and I've pretty much given up on improving each week. So we'll just try and have fun each week. For those who haven't joined us yet, Tuesdays with Michael presents a chance to get to know some of the great people around Muskegon and Muskegon County. It's really just a chance for them to talk about their why. Why Muskegon? Why the path they chose? And why is what they do special, cool, or important to the community? Every week varies. We go from food to politics to festivals this week to marketing and beyond. We have some rough outlines every week that we want to talk about, but for the most part, let's consider this free form. Questions are entirely encouraged. One thing that I do want to note, this show is intended for those who are 21 years and older. I decided to start putting that up after an amazing guest I had 2 weeks ago. Made me realize that we are a brewery, we sell beer, but it may need to be said. So this is not a show about sales pitches, but we do drink beer. And this week I have to note that, technical difficulties. I can never figure out what I'm doing. Don't Stop Believing is being released this week, so stay tuned. Also, our Brewers Lounge is open now downstairs. People are drinking beer below me, and that's literally my entire sales pitch for the week. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce tonight's guest. But before I do so, I'm going to talk a little bit about him behind his back, although he can hear me and see me. Bob Lukens. Bob and I have worked together professionally and bumped elbows here and there socially, but I can't recall ever sitting down with him and just having a great BS session over beer. Tonight, we're changing that. I've always associated Bob with Visit Muskegon, but he's honestly a much more important guy than I'd given him credit for, or at least his titles say as much. Bob's official title is Community Development Director for Muskegon County, which means that he is in charge of Visit Muskegon, the marketing organization for our county, Muskegon County Airport, Muskegon Area Transit System, and the Muskegon County Parks. Just a quick reminder before I bring him in, we do have 2 gift cards to give away this week. We have one for Dr. Rolf's Barbecue. We have 2 for Dr. Rolf's Barbecue, both of which will be given away on the show, although one you'll probably find out about tomorrow. The first one goes to the person that asked Bob's favorite question. The second one will go to the first person to correctly answer a trivia question about Bob that I haven't even figured out yet. And that'll be sometime near the end of the show. So, without further ado, Mr. Bob Lukens.
Good evening, everybody. And I'm going to make my pitch, too. Here's No Dignity. Can you see that? Tasting real good tonight. It's one of my go-to beers at Pigeon Hill.
Well, I mean, for the first time ever, I was going to ask your favorite Pigeon Hill beer. I never start with my guests that way, but you actually took that off my list, so I'm just going to delete that. Thank you, sir. You're making my job easy tonight. So you are originally from Chicago, correct?
Yes, I am from the south side.
From the south side of Chicago. Yeah, you're not just one of those suburbanites who pretends to be from Chicago. You lived in the city proper.
I have. Yeah, I was born and raised in, for the first 7 years of my life in the South Shore neighborhood. That's at about 79th Street and the lake, about a mile from the lake. The lake looks a lot different there than it does here. And then later on, as I grew older, we moved to the Beverly neighborhood, the West Beverly neighborhood. And there's, a big Irish Catholic population there. So we fit in good there. I found out recently that I'm 70% Irish. So that was pretty good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I did have one thing I really needed to know before we get too far into your Chicago roots. I just need to know if you have a problem with the fact that after Muskegon single-handedly rebuilt Chicago without any help from anyone over there, all they gave us was this crappy street sign. That's very Chicago of them, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yes. Yeah. All right. That's literally all I have.
But there is a street on the south side, actually, that's called Muskegon Street in Chicago.
Oh, that is a street sign from South Muskegon Street. Yeah, it's South Chicago.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that. I can't see too much.
You're fine. So Alana and Amy helped me gather pictures today because I ended up having a bunch of IT things to deal with. Worst guy to have dealing with that. And one of the pictures they sent me was that. And they said, typical Chicago, we save them after the fire and that's all we get.
Right. A stinking green sign.
Yeah, I mean, typical Chicago. So people from Muskegon always talk about how lucky we are to grow up here. And frankly, it is true. But do you think that spending your childhood and part of your adult life in Chicago impacted your appreciation or even just your perception of living in Muskegon?
Oh, it sure did. I mean, the furthest I think I've ever gotten up into Michigan before I came to Muskegon was Grand Haven. You know, I didn't go across the bridge. And, you know, it's an interesting story, too, because when I was younger, in my teens and such, you know, we'd take trips up to Warren Dunes, but we wouldn't really get too far into Michigan. A lot of the time we'd go into Wisconsin and camp, fish, recreate there. But when I got married and my children came along, we would go to the beaches in Michigan all the time. Our kids loved going to the beaches. And the beach we went to was in Stevensville, and it's called Waco Beach. It's a city beach in Stevensville, Michigan. So we would go there, and we'd bring along some refreshments, my wife and I. And while the kids were playing in the water, I'll never forget it. One time I said, boy, wouldn't it be great to live in Michigan and experience this year round? So, you know, that always kind of stuck with me. And when I saw this job come up, I had been with the convention bureau in the south and southwest suburbs there, representing 60 suburbs on the south side and in the south suburbs. You know, I had been there for 13 years, and it was about time to make a change. I wanted to advance in my career, and I answered the advertisement, came to Muskegon, did the interview, did, you know, pretty well with the interview, I thought. You always think you do great, you know, when you have that first interview. But then I explored town a bit, and right in the center there was the Richard Hunt sculpture, Muskegon Together Rising. Mm-hmm. And at the time when I was working for my CVB in Chicago area, I was on the board of the Nathan Manilow Sculpture Park at Governor State University. So, you know, I'm not an artist, but I really love sculpture. I just like it, you know. So I saw that, and I knew that Richard Hunt was a Chicago sculptor, and he studied at Art Institute of Chicago and did lots of work with world famous sculptors. You know, they were his contemporaries and they studied together. So when I saw that, I thought, wow, this is telling me something, you know, maybe Muskegon's the place. And the thing I also liked about Muskegon was, you know, at that time, as you know, Michael, it was a blank slate. I mean, there was not much here. There was Mike's and the Tipsy Toad, I think, and that was it. Hennessy's had just opened. We
called it Beirut. It, you know, and it really, I mean, it was a stretch, but in many ways it wasn't a stretch. There was dirt instead of a road. There were tumbleweeds.
Yeah. I mean, when I was here, it was, as you said, like that, and all sand everywhere, you know. Yeah. So I stopped after my interview for a refreshment before I drove home. And it was only one. But I thought, yeah, you know, this place would be a nice place to live and bring the family. So here I am.
So I've heard that story many times. It sounds like people, they get dragged here, or in the case of my wife, dragged here, or, you know, this random opportunity pops up, and about 20 minutes after landing in town, they think, this is something. Before we get too far into the somethings, I genuine curiosity on my part. Your background is, it's not just graduate college, join the CVB, sell tourism to people. it sounds like or looked like, based on LinkedIn, because I stalked you there as well. It sounds like you had a big gap between high school and college, including a stint as a chauffeur, which makes me want to know if you ever drove anyone famous. And then from there, what led you into a career in journalism and into the CVB world?
Well, that gap was for a time, probably about 4 or 5 years. I was taking classes at schools or colleges in Chicago area, and I worked for a large advertising agency, Tatham Laird and Cudner, which is now called Euro RSCG. It's a multinational advertising agency. So I was private chauffeur for Charlotte Beers, and she's one of the top women in advertising. She led, after she was president and CEO at TLK, Tatham Laird and Cudner, she went on to lead J. Walter Thompson and then Ogilvy and Mather. So my most famous brush with fame was I got to drive David Ogilvy around one time with Charlotte Beers. So I had two of the most powerful people in advertising in the US and some would say in the world in the car. And, you know, every time I was in the car with Miss Beers, I would just absorb as much as I could from her because she's an amazing woman. And, you know, I think she's retired now, but she led, you know, some of the biggest ad campaigns and the best ad agencies in America. So, you know, that was really a fun time. And I was driving our offices were at 980 North Michigan, which is, the building's also called 1 Mag Mile, and it overlooks Oak Street Beach.
Yep.
So I was driving a Mercedes 500 SEL with a phone back at that time, and a Jaguar Vanden Plus, and also like the biggest BMW. I think it was a 755 on the floor, you know? So it was great. I was tooling around like Rush Street, you know, in a Mercedes.
You were about 40 years too young to be tooling around Rush Street, Bob.
Well, back then everybody went there, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a great time. But you know, I realized that I got to do something other than drive people around in my life, you know. And I always wanted to write for a newspaper. And I eventually went to school at Western Illinois University in the cornfields of Illinois, and got out of there and went to. I worked for a community newspaper in Chicago in the back of the yards neighborhood, which is behind the Union Stockyards area, like 47th and Ashland. I was there for 7 or 8 years. I pretty much did everything there except sell ads. And I learned a lot about writing and things there.
You got to meet some cool people. Was this there as well?
Yeah, this was when I was a writer and editor for the Journal. And Mayor Daley, you know, back of the yards is very close to Bridgeport. So Mayor Daley would frequently come to the area when he'd make big announcements. And that was an instance where I was able to meet him and shake his hand, which was pretty cool, you know.
I do miss the mustache. I'm just going to throw that out.
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's like really dates me, you know.
I had that exact same mustache about 4 weeks ago, so I'm not judging at all. Yeah. My wife might because she judged me, but
yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I mean, I always love, just on a personal level, hearing the career paths. You know, for me, I've got my law degree sitting on the wall behind me here, and yet here I am drinking beer on Facebook Live and talking about things completely unrelated to law. I mean, I don't even have to think about that anymore. But at the same time, each of those paths we take really brings us to the point in life we're at any given time.
Right.
Just, you know, it's fascinating.
Yeah. When I finished up at the newspaper, the reason I left there was because our third kid was on the way, and my wife's like, "You got to get a real job now, pal." You know, so here I am. Yep.
You know, it's funny. I got a real job. My wife said, "You need to get a real job." Actually, she never said that, but I thought to myself, "I need to get a real job. I'm getting married." So I went to law school, and the next thing I know, it's like, "Hey, Alana, I know I've got a real job, but can I open a brewery and then go work there full time?" And the rest is history.
And yeah, the rest is history.
So I'm actually really excited. I have a bunch of things I'm really pumped to talk about today.
Sure.
You've got a ton of roles here in Muskegon, which honestly I didn't know. I've talked to you about the airport in passing before, so I knew that you had your hands in there. But I always think of Bob as Visit Muskegon, and I think that's certainly your most public role here, and definitely one that I'm excited to talk about tonight because there's a lot going on. Obviously, Visit Muskegon is about tourism in the county, and now it's about conventions.
Yes.
What else is it about? Is it about you go?
Well, Visit Muskegon is about people discovering a place that they may not really have seen in quite some time. Because a lot of the people that I would talk to would say, Muskegon, that's an industrial town. You've heard it all, but it's really enjoyable when people that haven't been here in 10, 15 years come to Muskegon now. They're just amazed at what's happening, and I think our growth in the past, especially 5 to 7 years in Muskegon and really countywide, has really made Muskegon the kind of it destination, in Michigan. People are discovering our beaches, our festivals. We were just talking before the show, our outdoor recreation. Mosquito Creek opened. That's north of the wastewater plant, but it's become a real hub for mountain biking and fat tire biking, even running. And then, the Nugent Sand property's coming up, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. But
I don't have those pictures queued up yet.
Yeah, that's another huge addition to the county.
Yeah.
But just this past summer, we saw how people are recreating here in Muskegon County, and going to the beaches, enjoying our restaurants. When they can get outside and we can spread out during COVID, especially. But it seemed like there was a lot more traffic on the lakes, the inland lakes, Lake Michigan, and the beaches. The beaches were packed all summer long. And, we were very fortunate to have a good summer. But I think, we've really looked at Muskegon as a destination and trying to build that destination. And I think the convention center is something that really will help us build that destination and get new visitors here. I was just over there today for a meeting. We were talking about the ribbon cutting, which will be coming up near the end of March. And, it's going to be a great facility for meeting planners and others that want to hold events, be they consumer shows or training seminars, small conventions and events. It'll be a fantastic new place for people to explore and discover. And, the view out of those windows that you're showing right there over Shoreline
Right
Drive. Yeah, right there.
It's right here. You can see my office.
Yes, you can. And it's right there, like you said.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but you see the water and everything else. So it's, it'll be a great new place for people to discover, and it'll just help us make our job easier. But what we have to do is opening a convention center during COVID is not ideal at all. So we really have to sell the heck out of it, and we need the community to help us. So some of the viewers that are on today, if you are a member of an organization that has meetings or conferences or trainings, reach out to the Convention Bureau. We're in the depot downtown, as you know, and we can help you bring a meeting to Muskegon or keep your meeting right here at home.
Absolutely. I do have to note that total off train of thought. Bob, you'll realize that I'm ADHD and my meds wear off at about 6 o'clock. So that's part of what Tuesdays with Michael is all about, is the audience experiencing my mind jumping in a million directions. I do have to note that Lachelle from Visit Muskegon, who's watching right now, and I believe drinking a punchki beer, sent me an amazing time-lapse video of the convention center being built. but I don't think that she actually paid attention to the part of the show every week where I say, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I have enough trouble breathing and showing pictures at the same time. So a video was just off the table. But it was really nice. I mean, I'll just tell the viewers, it was great. I loved it.
Right. Yeah.
So I know we're really excited about the convention center just because, as you said, we're not trying to draw in the crowds that McCormick Place would draw in, because obviously that's what McCormick Place is for. That's what DeVos Place is for. Right. But we have this opportunity to, being the only convention center along the lakeshore, to draw in these, as far as I know. Am I incorrect? On our side of the lake?
Yeah, we're the only one here.
We have this opportunity to draw in these smaller groups that don't really have a place. They don't fit in at DeVos Place. They don't fit in at McCormick, which is pretty much what defines Muskegon. We don't fit in a lot of those places.
Exactly.
And so they fit with us. They fit here. And I'm really excited to, be part of the stewards who are part of the steward group welcoming these folks to our town, because I think they're going to like what they see.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And, I think the businesses will like what they see too. So we're planning, from the Convention Bureau's perspective, is, putting those events out there and the lists, so that our retailers, our restaurants, our breweries, distilleries all know that, these groups are in town. So, treat them good, and they'll open their wallets for you.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, I think of it just as a downtown resident, or frankly, as a Muskegon resident. I'm always excited when someone new moves to town. And how do we do that? We drag them here one way or the other. And just like we drag Bob here, just like we drag Alana here. And, for a lot of folks, it just takes one look at that lake, one look at this lake. Muskegon Lake's what I'm pointing at. And hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, it's a great place. Amazing. My wife and I say, every couple of weeks, we're like, aren't you glad we moved here? And we're both like, yeah, I mean, it's great here. And that's why tourism's so fun, because I get to tell everybody how great it is.
Right. I'll be honest, I am very strongly considering being a snowbird by the time I'm 40. But outside of the two, I'll work. I mean, now we can all work virtually. But outside of the 2 months of the year where I finally can't take it anymore, Muskegon is the best place.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of ties into one thing I at least wanted to gloss over, because it is part of your job, ways that people get to town, the Muskegon County Airport. My wife and I tell a lot of jokes about this airport. The most frequent is about the hamsters that run the wheels that turn the baggage carousel, which I'm still not convinced don't exist. But truth be told, there is no more convenient way to get to Chicago or make a connector. You can park and walk up, and I mean, that's it. You park and walk up. I do know the airport's seen its struggles, but I think there's a vested community, and in my case, a family interest. There is Storia Drive right there. So I, like many in the community, wanted to succeed. I think a question that I've heard, at least, is what's the future look like for the airport?
Well, right now, we're in the process of transitioning to a private firm that's going to manage and operate the airport. They're called F3 Airports out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right across the lake. And they are going to be, contracting with the county to bring kind of a fresh perspective on the airport, so that we, their objectives, of course, will be to increase passenger traffic at the airport, perhaps look at some new service delivery. We have had discussions about potentially not only going to Chicago, but maybe another destination with a airport that will, with an airport that would have connections also to other places. So I think if we go, I think as we move forward, we'll see more activity at the airport. Of course, COVID has really hit airports nationwide and the whole industry. But, I think the airport will really kind of change and be marketed a bit better too, so that people are more aware of what we have to offer at Muskegon County Airport. And we're looking forward to the change.
Good. No, I honestly, I am as well. At the moment, I'm admittedly leery on anything but a nonstop flight. I have flown once since COVID, and frankly, for the sake of connections and not missing connections, I'm more leery than I ever would be. But in normal times, or at least semi-normal times, there's literally no more convenient way to travel. For those of us who live along the lakeshore, especially in the winter, when you've got to battle either driving to O'Hare or, heaven forbid, driving to O'Hare, or even just driving to Grand Rapids. You're trying to catch a 6 a.m. flight in Grand Rapids in the middle of a blizzard.
Yeah, it's tough. So it's convenient. And, what frequently happens at Muskegon County Airport is it's not our airport that's shut down or delayed, it's Chicago.
Right.
And that horses everything up,
Right.
So
Right.
I think as we move forward, if there is another destination thrown in there into the mix, we'll have other options for people to be able to make their connections or even make their flights. Who knows? In the future, there could be some nonstops to Florida, especially in the winter, or to Vegas or something. Interestingly enough, in our service area, the majority of people that transfer or connect in Chicago are going to the West Coast, to LA and San Francisco,
Really?
Which was really surprising to me. But it's those two destinations, and then Florida, Orlando. So it's popular everywhere.
No, absolutely. So, obviously, sometimes we have to travel to get away. But one thing that you brought up earlier that I personally am very excited about as a runner and just an outdoor nut is the upcoming Nugent Sand Project. Well, not even upcoming. I mean, the ongoing Nugent Sand Project, which I'm just going to start with this picture because this is stunning.
It's my favorite picture.
I mean, it's
awesome.
I think I'm supposed to give credit to somebody, and to whoever it is. If Visit Muskegon chimes in the comments, I'll throw it on the screen. I apologize. I don't have notes for that.
You know what? That photo is by Christine Tyler. Christine with a K.
Thank you, Christine. I've stared at this about 10 times today.
I know, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. So
it's really amazing.
I think, MLive has written about this project, but can you tell us a little bit more about it? What?
Sure.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, the opportunity became available to the county back in, it was 2019, kind of late in the year. So, we discussed it with administration, county administration, the city. It's entirely within the city of Norton Shores, and then the Parks Department. So, we arrived at the idea that we would go to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund and apply for a grant. The property, the total cost of the property for both the South and the North Lake areas was about $15 million. So through the generous contribution or donation from the landowner that of about $5 million, we needed $10 million to seal the deal. So we applied for the $10 million and we were awarded this past December from the Natural Resources Trust Fund Board $5 million. And then, they kind of said, why don't you apply for the other phase of the project? So now we're in the process of applying for that. It was approved in committee by the county board last week. So it will go to the full board, I think the 23rd. And the application is due on April 1st. And then we'll know in December of 2021 if we're awarded that additional $5 million to purchase the North Lake of Nugent Sand. And the North Lake has a good chunk of Lake Michigan property. I think it's probably, the total is almost 2,000 feet of Lake Michigan frontage, but the North Lake has the bulk of it. I think about 1,600, 1,700 feet of Lake Michigan frontage is on that North Lake. So what has to happen though is on the South Lake portion of it, that has to be approved by the legislature and the governor. The recommendation was provided to them from the Natural Resources Trust Fund Board. So it just has to go to the legislature and governor for approval, but that typically happens. So we're not worried too much about that, really at all about that. But after we close on the property, we have 90 days to open the South Lake. So we will be able to do that. We're currently in the planning stages for that, but it will be very minimal. We want to keep it as natural as possible out there. And the lakes will be quiet lakes, so there will be no motorized boats on them at all. And we just want to make it a great place for people to go enjoy the outdoors and plus have that access to Lake Michigan. It's a little hairy now, you know, with the erosion that has been happening over the past few years, but the idea is to eventually, when we acquire both properties, have an easy way to get down to the lake that will you know, be ecologically sound and not deteriorate the dune. So it's a really exciting project. I've been out there a number of times, and you know, there's all sorts of wildlife out there. There's eagles, coyotes, you know, all sorts of birds, deer everywhere. It's just fantastic out there.
I was about to talk about my experiences out there until you said that it wasn't open yet, and so I haven't been out there.
No, a lot of people are going out there now. They really shouldn't be, but you know. So.
If I had been out there, hypothetically speaking, I would not have been the only one out there admiring the natural beauty, but I wasn't out there, so I can't speak to it.
Very good.
But hypothetically, I've heard it's great.
There, Michael.
How much of the? I actually don't understand this question. Let's see. I'm talking about parks. So I assume current county parks are booked at this time. Maybe it's a camping question.
That's Commissioner Brown. Hi, Commissioner.
Hi, Commissioner Brown.
As far as camping goes, well, on Reservations Day, which was January 4th, we had over $100,000 in reservations. So I don't really have that exact number, but I know that a lot of weekends especially are taken already. So oftentimes in the weekends during the summer, we're sold out at all of our camping parks, which is Pioneer, Minot, and Blue Lake. You know, they fill up pretty fast, especially with good weather. And, you know, a lot of the people that come out to the campgrounds stay for a week or even 2. I think they can stay up to 14 days without re-upping. So, you know, we had a great year last year, really due to COVID, because people were spending their time outdoors, you know.
Absolutely. I know it seemed like the season, I mean, obviously we had a wonderful summer that extended, but it seemed as though the season for camping really extended even when the weather started to turn. You know, I was amazed at how full some of the campgrounds seemed at times where it might normally be a little bit sparser. You know, I think COVID certainly played a role in that. And I know personally, I'm hopeful that that doesn't change, you know.
Yep. It took us a while to open. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, as an outdoor nut, it's pretty incredible to see one of the positives. I always like to look at the positives of the last year being how much time people are spending outdoors, really embracing all the outdoor recreation we have.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. We had to open the parks a little later though, because that was kind of during the time of uncertainty, pretty severe uncertainty. Yep. So we had some opening dates scheduled. The parks typically open for camping about, I think it's either May 1st or May 15th, but we had to push that into very early June, which, you know, was a bit of a hassle, but once we opened with a vengeance because there were a lot of people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Muskegon County Parks is it's kind of fun. The airport was throwing up some great hashtags. We've got Muskegon County Parks letting us know that you can go to muskegoncountyparks.org. I feel like I need to get all of these organizations every week so that I don't have to do as much work.
You know who that is doing that, don't you? It's Lachelle.
Is it Lachelle? Hi, Lachelle.
Yeah.
She also, how many, do you have like 10 computers open, Lachelle?
She's amazing.
I can barely manage 2 screens right now.
Yeah. I know, me too.
So I have a question came in, and I want to segue into it because Lachelle is literally, she switches back. This is amazing.
There she is.
Lachelle, do you want to volunteer, but be just told to help out? Oh no, she's got her phone. And you can run all of my AV. That'd be great. Thank you. All right. So we had a question come in about Burning Foot, which kind of ties into, obviously the Burning Foot in 2020, and I had a 10-part question because the world's changed so much in the last 12 months. There's no surprise there. It was a surprise 12 months ago. And I guess for starters, how has that really impacted what you do? And, where do we go from here? And what are the goals for 2021, 2022?
For the festivals, you mean?
No, I would say in general.
Oh, yeah.
But for Visit Muskegon, sorry.
Oh, okay. I would say that a lot of it really depends on the vaccination rates and people's comfort with going out, going back to restaurants, going to meetings, attending festivals. 21, I think, will be a bit of a challenge, but I think as we move in later into the year, I think things will improve pretty drastically. And from what I'm seeing on the news, millions of people are getting the vaccine. So I think it will, as that happens, people will feel more confident about gathering in at least somewhat larger groups. Now, it still may affect a lot of the events for this year, but I know that with our convention center, there's a lot of interest in the facility, not only because it's new, but just because, people want to get back to face-to-face meetings. Everybody's kind of zoomed out. I know that I'm on it all day, not all day, but a good percentage of the day, every day. And I'm sure everyone is, so
right now.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think a lot of it here in Muskegon depends on weather. So if we have good weather in the summer, it changes the whole dynamic, and people feel more comfortable about getting out and gathering in loosely knit kind of groups. The restaurants feel better about it because they can open up their outdoor dining. So 21 will be tough, a bit tough, but I think when we get into 22, I think we'll see a lot of improvement there. I think it's going to be like that with the airlines too. They're saying the airlines will take, 2-3 years to come back. I don't know. We'll have to see. There's still a lot of uncertainty, but I think people's fears are kind of being quelled a bit.
So when it does come back, do you think it's going to look the same, or, I've got a picture of festivals here, and the question that we had I'll just throw it up on the screen, from Sean is, any thoughts or updates regarding Burning Foot Beer Fest? I haven't actually heard anything yet. But that ties into, the festivals here are a huge part of what we do. Everyone jokes that we're Beer Tent Capital USA, but I think really what we are is a festival capital in West Michigan. More than, the festivals bring the beer tents, but we're about the festivals. And so one thing that I've been pondering and just kind of, looking at the world is the festivals, I imagine, will come back, but will they be the same? Should we expect major changes?
Well, that's a really good question. I've been in pretty close contact with most of the festival organizers, and it's full steam ahead. Everybody's planning now, but they're making kind of alternative plans so that if they do have to pull the plug, they won't be too far in. I think a lot of them are waiting until March and April to see how things shake out with the vaccine and people's response to the vaccine if they're doing if they're getting vaccinated. But as far as festivals changing, yeah, I think they'll change somewhat. There'll probably be either larger or smaller footprints. Larger footprints, of course, would allow people to spread out a little more, but smaller footprints would kind of contract the festival itself, because there'll be a certain element of people that just won't want to attend the festival. So their numbers, at least for 21 and maybe 22, could be down. But again, I think as the year progresses and as we get into next year, I think people's confidence will come back and it'll work a lot better for the festivals. And the burning foot question, I know that they're meeting now and they're planning on having it at the beach. So they were going to have it at Heritage Landing last year. Yeah, but they're going to go to the beach this year if they can, and they're in the planning stages. So as of now, it's on. That's great to hear. So keep your fingers crossed.
Absolutely. That's simultaneously my favorite and least favorite event of the year. It's my favorite because it brings so many people to Muskegon. It's just a chance for all of the brewers to have fun. I mean, it's a huge party. Right. It's my least favorite because it's been almost 2 years since we had it, and I'm still cleaning sand off everything. So, I mean, literally, it's a month of hosing down everything we have. But it's such an amazing event. Oh, and to have it right in our backyard.
It's fantastic.
It's incredible. So outside of the festivals, do you think that tourism as a whole is going to change? I mean, I'll explain my train of thought here. Early on, I think you sent out some emails, or maybe we were even just drinking a beer together, and you mentioned this early in COVID about people looking for smaller, closer vacations. And, it seems like people have kind of adjusted to this idea of keeping it a little more local, maybe just avoiding crowds because they found out they don't actually love huge crowds, and spending time outdoors. Do you see that trending even with the vaccine? And is that going to help us out in Muskegon?
Yeah, I think we will see a lot more in-state travel. So we'll see, we get a good percentage of our visitors are from Michigan, but, we're in that really fortunate area where Chicago's only like 3 hours away. Detroit's 3 hours away via 96. I mean, it's a one shot and you're here. So those are our two biggest markets. And then of course, Milwaukee, we get a good number of visitors from Milwaukee and some parts of Wisconsin. But I think in-state travel will pick up this year. People will stay closer to home, but we're fortunate to have those two major metropolitan areas that feed our area, So we'll get a certain number of people that come from those areas. I think typically it's about 60 to 70% of our travel here to Muskegon is in-state travel. And naturally, we want the out-of-state dollars brought into Michigan and to Muskegon. So that's what we go for as much as we can, that out-of-state travel.
Absolutely. You're going to steal those Chicago dollars.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
All right. So we're going to go with a quick comedic relief because I like to inject them every so often. All right. So I've got to know. Let's talk about your hair, which gives me a segue into another topic. First, are you related to Napoleon Dynamite?
Thanks a lot there, Michael. No,
you didn't see that. You didn't know these questions. I added these questions after I sent the questions to you.
Yeah, those are that picture in the top left was me back in probably when I was about, I don't know, 19, 20 maybe. And then, when Napoleon Dynamite came out, my kids were young and they loved it. So they're like, yeah, Dad really looks like Napoleon, man. And as you can see from that bottom picture, that was here in, I was putting out no parking signs for the St. Patrick's Day parade. And my hair was really unruly then, or wild then. But I haven't done that in quite a while. Now that sheep there, yeah, that looks like me, kind of.
That's also off your Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I think that was directed at my daughter because she used to have hair, really long curly hair like that sheep almost, and she would have fits about that too. But my son, my oldest son, has hair like mine too, and he keeps it just like mine now. I cut it off now, because it's a pain, man.
Honestly, I loved it when you had it just growing out all over. So my hair it's actually it's like light wavy, a little bit straight, but as soon as it hits about yay long, it just goes poof.
Yeah.
So I feel the pain, not quite that way, yeah. But I definitely feel it. So I got to know, are you going to grow it back? Because honestly, I loved it.
Well, in the winter, maybe next winter I will, but my kids are always like, Dad, don't do it. It looks horrible. But
it kind of looks like your dog's.
Yeah, it does. It looks even crazier when I pick it out because then it really gets big. Yeah, that's Buzz and Petunia, our dogs, golden doodles, and they've been known to visit Pigeon Hill on occasion.
I recognize them.
Yes.
That actually, so that was my segue that I mentioned. It seems to me like Muskegon is extremely dog friendly, and I've been to other places that are dog friendly, but not as much in Michigan. We've got the parks, the beach, the parks are dog friendly. We've got most of the patios. Obviously, in Michigan, we're not allowed to have dogs inside food establishments, but most of the patios are dog friendly. From your experience, is that atypical, or is it more common than I realize?
I think it's becoming more and more accepted. I mean, I've only really noticed it probably since I moved here, maybe. So maybe 10 years or so. It's become pretty standard and normal all across America, really. Again, a lot of it has to do with the patios, I don't think people really want dogs inside restaurant and dining establishments, but the patios are a great place for dogs. It's always a conversation piece. It gets people talking.
As long as the dogs are well behaved, we can't allow them inside. We've obviously had exceptions for service dogs. Canine Sena was a fixture in Pigeon Hill for a long time. But as long as the dogs are well behaved, we get more excited than anyone. I'll walk up and all of my bartenders are on the patio, and I'm like, "Look, someone needs a beer," but I see there's a puppy. It's fine. I'll give you 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, they're great conversation pieces. And there's a lot of our dogs are golden doodles, so there's a lot of them around town, and there's more and more of them every year.
We've got a golden Sadie, and I don't have a picture of Sadie queued up. Wait.
I think I've seen her before.
She's my babe. Well, there's a news break about Muskegon, but there's Sadie's eyes in her nose. And we'll be not driving. We're just walking down the darn road, and Sadie never goes anywhere without something in her mouth. So she's always got either her chewy toy or a stick. Like she found a stick in a snowbank yesterday. I don't even know where it came from, but she reaches over, grabs a stick, keeps walking, and inevitably people are stopping like, "Oh, cute dog," honking their horns. So I love the dog culture, and it seems very strong here.
It is.
Having the new dog park has definitely helped.
That was a great addition to the downtown area too. So, that was county property. I think now it's been transferred to the city. So, it was a great use of that property because it wasn't really usable,
Right. Right.
Because of Muskegon's past, I guess you could say.
It was our dirty little past.
Right.
So Lachelle had a comment earlier, and it actually aligns with something that I had. So I'm going to throw that up. She said that we're so fortunate to have so many museums. They've been amazing, along with our natural resources and the cultural scene. And I'm skipping over everything except the museums and the art, which you and I talked about earlier.
Right.
You know, art is a huge part of our community, and we have Rising Together right there, which you talked about as one of the things you noticed when you came here.
Right.
You know, we have these numerous art installations around the county, an incredible, world-class, frankly, art museum right downtown. That wasn't a question. I just wanted to state that fact. Do you know of any plans to continue developing these installations, or to further the art, quote unquote, scene here in Muskegon?
Yes, the railroad overpass project is coming up too. So
Yeah.
those railroad overpasses will be painted with murals by, I think, mainly local artists. And then there's a lot more murals popping up in the neighborhoods too, which is great. Sculpture will continue to be an important part of Muskegon and really throughout the county. There's sculpture really up north along the Hart Montague Trail. There's some sculpture up there. And in Whitehall and Montague, there's some sculpture. We're really fortunate at the depot to have All My Relations, which is there on the left, or on the right, I mean.
And unfortunately, the Clipper's not here, and it was just because I couldn't fit it in the square.
Yeah.
But the Clipper is an amazing boat too.
It is. We have 2 moving boats there and 2 parked or moored boats there, plus the Clipper. So, I think the Lake Express is really one of my favorites because it brings new visitors to Muskegon County. So we typically go out there on the first day when they make their first crossing. We were out there this year, and it was great to see them coming in. And there's my daughter. I can answer the favorite child question. It's me. She's in Portland, so they got some snow there. But I really love all the boats. I mean, the museum boats are fantastic. They draw huge numbers every year. And the Aqua Star, brings lots of groups out to kind of tour the shoreline of Muskegon along Muskegon Lake. And then oftentimes, if the weather's good, they'll go out onto Lake Michigan. So, all of the boats play their part in Muskegon County tourism.
And I'm really excited. I have not been on the Aqua Star yet, but we have we hopefully have what will probably be our first real, what I call external event of the season with them coming up, which hopefully I didn't just get in trouble for saying something about because it hasn't been announced. And so it'll be my chance to go out on that boat. But I know growing up here, the Silver Side's like, I grew up in Bluffton. And so you walk down the street and there's a World War II submarine. Yeah, and a decorated one, no less. And then, the LST, which is literally just over on the other side of my building, right, is where I met my business partner, Joel. Randomly walked up to this guy illegally serving homebrew at this young professionals event, which I told him because I'm the attorney. And, now here we sit 7 years later. So that one's got a really special place in my heart, but it's also an incredible museum. And then the Lake Express, I mean, it's, it brings people here, but it gives us a chance to experience the big lake in a different way. It gives us a chance to go to the big-ish city of Milwaukee and remember why we love Muskegon so much when we're there. And I love Milwaukee. It's a nice city.
It is.
But it provides a quick getaway for those of us on both sides of the lake. Right. I am actually a little ashamed to admit that I have not been on the Clipper, but that's something I intend to remedy this summer.
It's very interesting too, and the ballroom inside of the Clipper is just amazing.
The pictures are incredible.
The I was going to say about the silver sides. Last year, I was fortunate to be there when they fired up the engines. They only do that a few times a year, and it was something else, man. They're diesel engines, so they would tell people, stand back, come back now, because when they fire up those engines, it's going to be smoky, and it was. There's a big cloud of smoke that comes out, and then the water cooling system for the engines just blasts water out of the side of it. So it's really an experience. And then the LST, those different events that are held up on the top of the LST and the inside of it are great. But this funny thing happened, a few years after we moved here. You'd see the Lake Express coming in every day during the summer, several times a day during the summer. And some of the local folks that we struck up friendships with, my wife, Chris, and I, they would say, oh yeah, the waves are going to be coming. And I'm like, what? I'm like, we're 1.5 miles away from the channel. How can the waves be coming? They're like, just wait. So sure enough, the waves would come up. And for years, for like 2 or 3 years, I would joke about that. But finally, this past year, I admitted that, yes, those waves are from the Lake Express. And they get pretty big. I mean, you see little kids out there wave surfing,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really cool.
I look forward to being on the Lake Express. I think we've done it 3 times now. And it's one of those experiences where every time I feel like a little kid. And I grew up on boats. I mean, I grew up sailing Muskegon Lake. And still, every single time, when you're cruising along, you see the waves just spreading behind you. You feel like a little kid again.
Yeah.
Check. Oh, Visit Muskegon is reminding us that we do have waves, and they are the fault of the Lake Express. So if you hate our waves, blame the Lake Express. Don't do that.
Oh, and Visit Muskegon wanted me to mention something. And that is, currently we have this winter contest going on called Snow Much Fun. And what it is people go out to any type of attraction or, even some of the restaurants throughout the county, take a selfie, put on, I think it's Muskegon Snow Much Fun, hashtag it. And then, they can win prizes and be a social media star. So this Friday's prize, remarkably, has a $25 Pigeon Hill gift card. So get out there and have so much fun in Muskegon County. And there's also some McDonald's candy and farmers market stuff in there too. So just a little plug for Visit Muskegon and so much fun.
We don't have any sales pitches on this show. That wasn't a sales pitch because they're not actually selling anything. So
right.
You did just fine.
Thank you.
So I've got a couple of more photos that I remember this picture. I think this was 2011.
Yes, that was right when I got here. I remember that.
So it was right when I got here too. I think I moved home and you moved here right around the same time. I moved in the fall. I think you came in October?
Yes, October of 2011.
So when this picture was posted, and again, we stalked you hard on Facebook. You said people who live and work in Muskegon really do love Muskegon. This effort is to bring a microbrewery or brew pub to Muskegon, Michigan. So the question is, what impact did it have?
Oh.
The breweries and the brew pubs and the distilleries now.
In my opinion, they brought downtown Muskegon back. Like I said, when I first got here in 2011, it was sandy downtown. There wasn't much down here. The Froenthal, was the mainstay downtown, and the Art Museum, Heritage Museum, and Lakeshore Museum Center. So those museums were here, but that was kind of it. The Sim was here, which is a really great restaurant. Hennessy's had just opened, but I think the breweries really gave Muskegon the kick in the pants, if you want to call it that, that brought young people into the area and new eyes upon the community. Because, even back then, the breweries, there were lots of breweries opening up. So having the two breweries here, yourselves and Unruly, open was really important to the community and its future growth, in my opinion. It kicked off a lot of great things countywide, really.
Beer brings people together, and honestly, we've always said that we needed more. So having Rake, I think, has been a really not just a good addition. It's been kind of Dave Alexander loves the phrase critical mass. And Dave, if you're watching, you do. He always talked about that critical mass, the critical mass. And I really think that once we finally had a little bit more, that's when we started to get to that point. Yeah. So it is time for trivia, because I'm going to spin this into my next question, if that's okay. I also don't like hearing praise of myself or my business. So we're just going to segue right away from that. So time for trivia, which means that someone is about to win a $10 gift card to Dr. Rolf's. You're going to get it by email. So you're going to have to email me. All right. I'm trying to formulate this question. All right, I got it. What is, and don't say it out loud, Bob, we got to wait for people to answer. What is Bob's favorite baseball team? And part two, what should it be? So I know Bob's favorite baseball team, and he's wrong. So what should his favorite baseball team be? That's actually a trivia question about me. It's a two-part question. And go. If anyone's been watching on Facebook, we had a bit of a back and forth. So we'll see. I'm actually curious if anyone will get this. We got one of those teams right. So far we had Cubs, Tigers. No, you're. Oh, John nails it.
There's John Van Wyck. He knows, even though he's wrong about what it should be. Now, I'll admit, I've been to Cubs games in my life. When I worked for that ad agency, I lived in Lakeview, just north of Wrigley Field. So, what better way to spend an afternoon in the summer than out at Wrigley Field in the bleachers. So, I've been known to go there on occasion. It's tough, but I go there.
John, I just commented, send me an email at michael@pigeonhillbrew.com so I can take care of you with your gift card. So I'll fully admit, I don't watch what I call sports ball, which encompasses all sports that involve some sort of ball that gets thrown or kicked or anything. But when I moved to Chicago, which is why I'm not a Tigers fan. Growing up, I didn't care about sports. And so when I moved to Chicago, the dean of my law school somehow got us this deal where it literally was cheap to skip out of law school for the day or for the afternoon and go to Cubs games. We would just have these cheap bleacher seats, but it's like, I don't feel like going to class today. Guess I'll go to the Cubs game. Nice. And so that's how I fell in love with Wrigley Field and the Cubs. And also, I'm passionate about Muskegon. I'm passionate about underdogs. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
the Cubs are underdogs. So, yeah, holy cow.
Hello again, everybody. This is Harry.
I wish I could have gone to a game where Harry's here.
And celebrate.
Exactly. I'm not even going to try. Yeah. Oh, man. All right, so I got to take my glasses off. It's actually warm in my office for once. It's normally freezing up here. One thing that I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned this in the, there's a lot of things I wanted to talk about. It's funny, like every week, I've got a couple of things I have to talk about. And the next thing I know, there's like a million. Life is a staycation. So we keep talking about tourism and, the Shell's right. Shout out to the Clippers.
Right.
That is true.
Clippers.
This is very true. We talk about tourism and bringing people into Muskegon, but as a Muskegon resident, I find it's really easy not to leave because we really live in a vacation destination. I mean, luckily for us, tourism is not the end all here. We're not Grand Haven. We've got
or South Haven.
Yeah, even more so. Yeah, we could do that all day long, working our way down the lakeshore. So it is a great community to live and work in, but it is still a vacation destination. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize just how lucky they are or how to fully take advantage of that. So I've got some ideas of my own, but I'm curious what you think are some of the lesser known or maybe just lesser utilized opportunities for locals who want to take a day off, and rather than leave the county, turn it into a staycation right here in Muskegon County.
Yeah, well, I live in Norton Shores, so I'm in the south part of the county. It's a great town. I live in the south part of the county, and Hoffmaster's here, Lake Harbor Park. We bought our pass at Pierre Marquette. So Chris and I go to the beaches all the time, and we go hiking, on occasion out at the forest preserves. I'm talking Chicago now. Out at the state parks and the other parks in Muskegon County. So I always recommend that people get down to the lake and go to the state parks. We have 3 of them here. Duck Lake, if you go back and take the trails at Duck Lake, those are pretty cool too. And of course, Muskegon State Park has a whole network of trails back there. I think it was last year we walked back behind the Winter Sports Complex, and there's a whole bunch of trails back there. We started up at the Blockhouse and then walked down. That was really cool walk. It's those dunes are huge out there, and that was really nice. We like going up to Whitehall and Montague and just kind of kicking around up there. We stop at Fetch sometimes, and North Grove. So that's always fun. And, we just have a lot of really beautiful shoreline communities here in Muskegon County. And, the inland communities too really have a lot going for them. There's often, events that are happening out in the state wildlife areas, and, Mosquito Creek, which we talked about earlier, has become a real hot spot for mountain biking and fat tire biking. Owassipee too, in the fall and springtime. So, there's plenty to do here in Muskegon County. And then in the inclement weather, you can always go to our museums. So I always just I like going to the beach, honestly. So that's where we spend a lot of our time.
I actually hate going to the beach, and Alana knows this all too well, because we'll get down there and about 5 minutes later, it's like, can we go? I love the water. There's nothing for me at the beach because I get bored out of my mind within minutes. That being said, when I can, see the water constantly. I mean, I'm a Muskegon boy. Being raised here, I can't be far from it, or I have panic attacks. And going to Hoffmaster in the trail running there, or hiking for those who are hikers or walkers. I post pictures on some of the trail and ultra running groups on Facebook and other social media platforms, and people go insane over the views that we have, the trails and the views that we have there and behind the Winter Sports Complex and in the state park. I think, even people who have experienced the state park or who have experienced Hoffmaster, many of them have only taken some of those main trails. Right. And they've never deviated. Now, I'm not saying go off trail, because that's bad. Don't ruin our natural resources. But they've never taken some of the smaller trails and really seen these incredible views that are available, or just the incredible trails.
Yeah, I like bringing people out to Hoffmaster that have never been there before, or when friends come up to visit. And I always tell them the dunes are alive, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, the dunes are constantly changing. And, you can really see evidence of that at Hoffmaster. When you take that main trail out to the lake, it just, every year it looks different. And same with that Lake Harbor Park too. in Norton Shores. It's always changing down there along the dune ridges, and even up into those parabolic dunes that feed down into the lake. So it's really interesting if you're into that kind of stuff, and I like it.
That was actually the problem with Pigeon Hill. It was a living dune, and so not that I'm condoning what happened or condemning it, because there's a lot of politics behind that. But Pigeon Hill was legitimately encroaching on, I mean, some would say rightfully so, the houses and a church and a school that had been built in Bluffton. So for those who don't know, Pigeon Hill was a massive sand dune, and it was literally overtaking the neighborhood before it was mined out. And that's what sand dunes do. They move.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I love about running on these dunes is, you're constantly experiencing a new scene. Now, it's not as though you go out on Tuesday and then Wednesday, it's a whole different world.
Right.
But from season to season, you're experiencing a changed scenery. And it really is incredible.
Yeah. And another fun thing to do here too on your staycation, not stay vacation, is to go down to the channels and watch the boats come and go. It's always really fun, just to chill out and look at them. It's great.
I can do that for about 5 minutes. Again, ADHD.
I've heard. I think your wife told me you don't like to stay anywhere too long.
Yeah. I mean, even sitting here in my chair, I'm constantly moving, like not just my eyes, which is why I can't take these off, but I have to constantly, I've probably moved my legs 20 times just sitting here because it's really hard. That's why I have a treadmill under my desk, because I stand up and walk during work. It's the only way I can stay in one place. All right. So let's ask a couple more questions that are extremely important to me. And the first one is, what do you think we really need in downtown Muskegon, and why is it a Thai restaurant? You can pick something else, but you have to say Thai restaurant first.
Hey, I'm with you there. A Thai restaurant would be awesome. And, let's go for a Chinese restaurant too. And I know we do have some hot dog, lots of really well-known hot dog places around town, so I'm not going to say that. We have Italian. We have, a variety of different foods downtown. But yeah, Thai is one of my favorites. I like that. Let's see, we got barbecue. We really have a lot. Yeah, I would say Thai is a good answer. Really good answer.
That question has been asked every single week, and every single week I expect the same exact response. We need a Thai restaurant. I'm hoping somebody is watching and is going to open a Thai restaurant. Someone did say Ethiopian last week, which I would get.
Yep.
I would entirely be behind. But first Thai. I have actually Thai pad Thai on my menu to make at home next week. And I am terrified. If someone could just open a Thai restaurant so I don't have to do that, you've got 2 weeks, go.
Nice.
So I've got my final question, but before I hit that, anything that you want to talk about that we didn't cover? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any sales pitches for Visit Muskegon?
Yeah, I mean, just keep an eye on our event calendar. We keep a close watch on that, and it's probably, one of the best event calendars for events. There you go. Oyster restaurant, seafood restaurant. We have a couple of them, but
I just had oysters at sorry, I interrupted. I just had oysters at Walker's on Valentine's Day. Very well. I mean, considering we're in Michigan and it's February, I was very impressed.
Yeah, I'll have to try them. But yeah, keep an eye on our event calendar. That'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening festival-wise and other events, like our page at Visit Muskegon, the Facebook page. We're on Twitter and all the social media channels, and then our website, visitmuskegon.org. But if you ever have any questions, and again, if you're thinking of, hosting any type of event or meeting, please give us a call at the Convention Bureau or stop by at the old depot. We're there 5 days a week, and we're around town too. So just stop us and tell us. But yeah, you can visit our website and Facebook pages where you can get a lot of that information.
Beautiful. So my last question is what I end every one of these with, and I just saw a few things. It's probably just Lachelle. Oh, actually, here. Before I get to that, Don asked a great question that I even had a picture lined up for. Let me pull that up. And I totally forgot about it. See, this is what happens when you have a host with attention deficit disorder. What about the cruise ships, Bob?
Well, we got notification probably a week or 10 days ago that the Canadian government had put a stop to Great Lakes cruising for this season, actually until about this time next year in 22. So that effectively shut down the Great Lakes cruise season. Now, there are some efforts underway by Cruising the Great Lakes, an organization that's out of Chicago, but the chair of that is Dave Lorenz, our state travel director here in Michigan. He's the chair, and he's been monitoring that to see if there's any way that we could bring the cruise ships in this summer. We originally had 25 calls scheduled for Muskegon down at the Heritage Landing Dock from, let's see, I think it was from three cruise lines and 5 different ships that were going to come in, but they've all been canceled for now. If that changes though, our plans are still, they're still on the books. So if anything changes within the next month or two, we'll be able to accept those ships, but it's really not looking too good now, unfortunately.
Well, there's always 2022.
Right.
And I mean, I know that we at Pigeon Hill look at all of these and we see it's easy to be disappointed about each little thing that happens. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
So that's what we've been focusing on, I know.
We try to be optimistic about it, You got to.
we literally have no other choice.
Right.
We
We just want to be ready kind of for anything, if things change and things start opening up and capacities start getting larger, we just want to be ready for it. And we know that all of our restaurants, breweries, bars, distilleries will be ready for that too. But yeah, we want people back, It's what makes Muskegon County Muskegon. I mean, we need those summer visitors. And, some people complain about, too much tourism, this and that. But I don't know. I think it's great.
I can't find anywhere in the park.
Yeah, I think it's great when you meet somebody from out of town, and you start talking to them and they're like, wow, I never even thought of Muskegon, but this place is great. And that happens so many times.
All the time for us.
Yeah.
We get those stories. They circulate through our team internal network all the time. And, again, I think the difference is something that we touched on earlier. We aren't just a tourist town. We have tourists, and I love the tourists, but we aren't just a tourist town. And so that's why I think the tourists that we do have are so integral to what we are, because, they just fit as one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better.
I've been rehearsing this for days.
Great.
So my last question, and if any others come in, then I'll make sure and throw them up. But my last question, and you can't just say exactly what you said for the staycation, because I'm ending every program with this, and so you have to come up with something. What is your perfect day in Muskegon County?
Okay, well, last year we pulled the trigger and got a little boat. So it's a little boat. It's not big. it's just a little boat because we wanted something to do in the summer. Because typically we're, exploring all around town and going to the beach, and we wouldn't really need a boat, but we got one. So my perfect day now would be to pack up a cooler with some sandwiches and refreshments, go out through the channel to the arms, and sit out there for a while, take a dip, go swimming, then come back and maybe come downtown and have, a meal or another refreshment, and or go home and sit in our backyard and enjoy the summertime in Muskegon County, because it's just great. That's a perfect day for me.
And Lachelle wants to know what punk band you would be listening to while sitting in your backyard with refreshments.
Oh, that's tough, Lachelle. I don't know. Gang of Four, maybe. I like them. They're kind of raw. And you mentioned the Sex Pistols earlier. I actually had tickets for them before they broke up.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I saw them during a reunion tour in 2007. So a sellout tour. But I saw a sellout tour in 2007 at Aragon Ballroom in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, I was supposed to see them at Kobo, and they canceled that show. And Johnny Rotten almost walked off stage because of how many people were spitting on him. Yeah. I lost my favorite necklace because it was I was part of the scene. I had a chain around my neck that was padlocked, and I did not have a key to said padlock.
Oh no!
Well, the security guard did not believe that I did not have a key to the padlock and thought I was going to try and use it as a weapon. So I couldn't take it off, and so they cut it off with bolt cutters and took it.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
we could talk about music for hours, but
that'll be the next episode.
Yeah, I'm an older person, so I saw a lot of shows when I was young. And back in Chicago, WXRT, which is they call it Chicago's Finest Rock. You probably remember XRT. Well, they used to have like $5 shows, and I saw some great bands at Park West there, like U2 on their first tour. I mean, it was great. It was wonderful days.
Yeah, most of my favorite shows. I mean, I'll give this to Chicago. Lots of great shows.
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine's reunion tour, where it was Lala, but it's Rage Against the Machine. So
Lala would be fun. I never went to that.
Lala, I made the mistake of getting married on the weekend that they always held Lollapalooza. And so no, it wasn't a mistake to get married. It was just a mistake to do it on that weekend.
Yeah, watch
you, Alana, if you're watching. And so, unfortunately, I missed that year. I don't remember who we missed, but we missed an incredible lineup, and I've missed most of them since. But Rage Against the Machine and Nine Inch Nails were the same year, and not punk music, to answer Lachelle's question, but two of the best shows I've ever seen, despite the size of the venue and it being outdoors.
Yeah, and it was a great blues town and still is too. So
yes,
saw a lot of blues shows.
Yeah, I'm a jazz nut. So
Green Mill, right?
Punk. Yeah. I'm hopeful. I haven't even looked to see if the Green Mill is still open.
I don't know.
They were only allowed to reopen about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Fingers crossed there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, Michael.
Thanks
for having me today.
Absolutely. If you want to do this again and just talk about punk music, I'll plan on it.
I'll pull out some of my ticket stubs.
All right, I'll just bring in my vinyl player, my record player. We'll set it up in my corner back here, and
there we go.
All right, thank you.
All right,
have a good
see you. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Once again, many of you stuck with us, and I still can't figure out why. Thank you all for joining us. It's been another fun night for me. I think we're just going to start asking everyone their favorite punk bands. I'm hopeful that we have some guests who completely have no idea what I'm asking, because that only makes it more fun. Until next week, have a wonderful week. And I do hope that I see you all then. We're going to have Jackie Huss and Aaron Mace, both from the Lakeshore Museum Center, where we are going to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, which is old shit. So until then, cheers. Have a great night. Thanks for joining.